You ever go through something in your life and think, there's no way this is happening to me right now? And then later you realize that same moment might have been the very thing shaping who you're becoming. If that's the case, this episode is for you.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
Because alchemy it's a precursor to chemistry. Not that I am a left brain person at all. However, it's a way of taking the joys as well as the sorrows and making it all work for you rather than anything less. So I followed the breadcrumbs, I took the stepping stones, and I moved on. And I grew where I was planted and still continue to grow where I'm planted to my whole journey in consciousness. You see, we're all doing time here. Let's make our time the most of it. Because when you go home, you have to get a job, you have to take care of your kids, you have to pay the rent, you have to do all these things. This is the gift and the blessing right here. And so it worked well.
Hey, this podcast is all about helping you unlock your inner greatness and live your best audacious life. And today's guest is Rhonda Farrah. She's an alchemist, coach, speaker, and someone who's turned some of life's toughest experiences into purpose. We're talking about incarceration, breast cancer, and multiple resets, and what it really means to grow where you're planted. You know, there was one moment during this conversation where Rhonda talked about stopping, just stopping, and finally accepting where she was. And I found myself thinking, how many of us are still fighting reality instead of learning from it? That shift right there, it changes everything. I got to tell you folks, this one stayed with me and really, really appreciated Rhonda's insight. So without any further ado, let's turn to our conversation. Hey, Rhonda, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me for this about to be wonderful conversation. No doubt in my mind.
I don't doubt it either. And I think, you know, the opportunity to engage in the cool stuff that we're talking about here, and I call it cool because it really is, like, if you think about it for a second, Rhonda, so you and I are going to engage in a dialogue and other people have the opportunity, and I'm going to say they're eavesdropping, right? Yes. And they're going to listen to what we're talking about, and you know, they potentially can take, even if it's just one thing, institute in their lives and get them to a better place. You and I may never know about it, and I'm okay with that. But the idea that that kind of potential exists is just exciting. It really is. And so one of the things that really drive me and I get excited about when it gets to these kinds of conversations and podcasting in general.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that, Audley. It's, I always say you never know who's watching or listening. And that's what usually happens. We affect lives positively or not. Yeah. And we're here to inspire. I'm an inspirer. A motivator, I believe, comes from within. So my hope and my wish for this interview is that whatever together we inspire within our communities, they can move forward, motivate themselves to inspired action, which will motivate them, their families, their communities, as well as the world.
Yeah, the ripple effects are huge. I'm so glad you touched on that because we oftentimes think that, like, me and my little corner, my little ball doing my little thing only matters to me, and it doesn't. It absolutely does. It's far reaching, more than we could ever realize. And I remembered. So here in Toronto, Canada, I used to work as an usher at the Scotia Bank Arena where the Toronto Raptors play and the Maple Leafs play. Worked there for many, many years. I just loved the sport. Like I was more a basketball guy, so I just loved the idea of being in that space. And I had fun with the job. I enjoyed it. I loved interacting with people and sharing and laughing and just enjoying myself. And years after I stopped working there, because it was a part-time job, and so years after I stopped, and by the way, I hated leaving there. I loved that place, but I knew I had to go. But years after I stopped working there, I had met someone. Someone sent me a message on social media. Hey, Audrey, nice to see you again, kind of a thing. And I didn't know who the person was. And I said, and we had this banter back and forth a little bit. And she said, "Oh, I remember." And she made reference to, at the Scotiabank Arena. And I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh," and I didn't remember. And I just kind of went with it. So that's cool. She then, I don't know where it came from. She sent me a photo of her and I together, and we were laughing or whatever. And I'm going, "Yep, that's me." I still, but I'm looking at the photo, and I don't even remember the person. And
Right.
and it's comical. It's kind of comical. Like, I went through this experience, don't remember it. But what I'm actually was really, and my takeaway is really proud of, was the fact that part of the reason why I didn't remember it, because I wasn't trying to do something special. I wasn't
Hmm.
trying to make an imprint. I wasn't trying to be impactful so she would walk away with that experience. I was just being myself. And when you're being
Yes.
yourself, you don't think about it. You just operate in that flow naturally. And
Yes.
and so I was actually quite proud of that. I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. I was being me, and because I was being me, it was having that impact that we talked about earlier. And so,
Yes.
yeah, thank you for letting me share my story.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Let's jump into you and the work that you do, because one of the things that we talk about often on this podcast about, kind of life being a pathway that we're on, right? And we're on
Hmm.
our individual path, and on our path we're going to have our own set of obstacles, pitfalls, challenges, hurdles, what have you. And it's really significant that we continue to take those steps forward, and deal with what's in front of us, because life continues. But the key thing we want to impress upon people is on the other side of adversity, the other side of those challenges, kind of where our greatness lies. We can't
Yes.
get there until we go through the difficult and challenging times. And you certainly had your fair share of adversity. And maybe as a starting
Yes.
point, we can get you to maybe talk about you a little bit to the audience, a little bit about
Sure.
your journey and what's got you to the point now, and then kind of, and where you taking things after that.
Oh, absolutely. Um, and you make a great point, which is why I'm an alchemist, because alchemy it's a precursor to chemistry. Not that I am a left brain person at all. However, it's a way of taking the joys as well as the sorrows and making it all work for you rather than anything less. And while I have plenty of credentials, educationally and otherwise, my credentials are the credentials of life.
Yeah.
And in periods of time that I never thought I would be in. So who says God doesn't have a sense of humor? At the time, I may not have actually thought that, but as I look back, my midlife crises have really turned into my midlife opportunities and
Mm,
adventures. And they include, as you probably know, incarceration, breast cancer, several divorces, financial collapse. Uh, However, that was midlife. I'm 67 right now. Never felt better. I feel I've never looked better. And it's that's what I mean by taking all of that stuff, the good and
yes,
the not so good stuff, and make it work for me
yes.
again. And the subconscious mind is great at that. When I didn't think I was ever going to make it work, when everything was so unexpected,
Hmm.
quote unquote, that subconscious mind, she was in motion again, whether I realized it or not. So I followed the breadcrumbs, I took the stepping stones, and I
Hmm.
moved on. And I grew where I was planted and still continue to grow where I'm planted to my whole journey in consciousness, into my transformation. Confirmation is a good word for that too,
It
but
is.
transformation. And incidentally, that's my forthcoming book, My
Okay.
Journey in Consciousness to Transformation, growing where I am planted. So that's, and I believe we can all do that if we
Yes.
choose to. If we
Yes.
choose to.
It's a choice.
Um, and alchemy, 2005,
Hmm.
I was, when I say prison, incarcerated. There were no bars or anything like that. I was um, in a women's federal prison camp in Northern California.
Okay.
And after about a year of banging the phone against the wall, saying, "Get me out of here," I just one day, and there she is again, the aha breath. I call it my God breath. Oh, well, that's it. And I stopped banging the phone against the wall and I got to the business at hand. I got to what my purpose was at
Okay.
that point in time. And it was midlife. I think I was 41.
Mm.
And so I went from being scared and very daunting to see a federal indictment that says United States of America versus Rhonda Farrah, who had never had a speeding ticket, a parking ticket,
Right.
or anything
Right.
like that. But I, it took me a year, but I said, no, this is, and that again, I surrendered it, maybe without even knowing what I surrendered to. And I found the gift and I found the blessing. And that experience pivoted me right back into being of service to others, teaching wellness classes to my fellow women inmates.
I
Um,
love it.
and it was an
Sorry.
interesting
Can we go?
time.
Can you, I don't mean to cut you. Can
No,
you just sort of touch on that, how that came to be teaching others? Because you think about in this moment of frustration, I don't belong here, and all of a
right.
sudden you turn it into something so wonderful.
I remember exactly. I was asked, so there's 300 women, and many of them had drug charges one way or another. I was a nonviolent, um, nonviolent, no drug charges whatsoever. And I was approached by my counselor who said, look at your background. Do you think you could be part of our curriculum to teach women something? Because they take these classes. I was the only inmate teaching. So there were counselors, there were other members of staff, and what they would do if they successfully went through the drug program curriculum, as it was
Hmm.
called, because they had charges to do with drugs, um, their sentence was reduced a year.
Okay.
And I said, okay, yeah, I could do that. And I did it. And after another year, I went to my counselor and I said, do you think I could get a year off my sentence because I'm teaching? And he smiled and he said, no, you can't, Farrah. They call you by your last name. Um, you don't have a drug charge. I looked at him and I said, okay, that was it. And
Right.
I kept doing that. So the point of surrender a year before was critical in me getting back on track, in me
Gotcha.
growing where I am
Mhm.
planted, in me finding the blessing
Yes.
within all of that. It was not only teaching. At that point, I was an avid runner. I jog and fast walk now after 50 years of running, but I had a track. I had an antiquated um, weight pile for strength training.
Yep.
So while I was teaching these wellness classes, I was blessed and gifted with that. And many women will, they said, well, teach me how to do this, teach me how to do that. And I did. So I was working the emotional as well as the physical side of helping others into well-being
Yes.
versus anything less. So that was the gift and the blessing. And I guess I figured
Beautiful.
subconsciously, at least, hey, I'm here. I might as well make the best of it.
Beautiful.
And I did what I tell women all the time because they'd say, when I get home, I'm going to lose weight. When I get home, I'm going to start reading some self help material or otherwise, or participate in class. I said, no, no, no. You see, we're all doing time here. Let's make our time the most of it. Because when you go
Mm.
home, you have to get a job, you have to take care of your kids, you have to pay the rent, you have to do all these things. This is the gift and the blessing right here. And so it worked well.
I love it. No, I the idea of taking your situation, which it was crappy, it sucked, it wasn't good, it was
Yeah,
painful, all those adjectives to describe it, and still find a way to turn into something impactful.
yeah,
And I mean,
right.
and I mean, you'll always get me in. I can go on a conversation about impact forever because I just think it's so critical and talk about those
Yeah,
ripple effects and how who they go out and help and serve and make a difference to. And so you're planting that seed, which is beautiful. Um, I want to jump into the you're comfortable fixing the reflection first.
yes.
I think it's a beautiful phraseology. So kudos to you for coming up with that or developing
Thank
that,
you.
or your marketing team behind you. I don't know who did it, but kudos because it's so impactful. And really when I hear that, what really comes, the imagery that comes to mind is obviously the mirror. You're thinking about looking into a reflection,
Yeah.
but the piece around fixing your reflection first, that really underscores the importance of that being the starting point. The starting
Yes.
point to any sort of greatness, so significant accomplishments, achievements happened with you looking at yourself through that mirror first. I wonder if you could expand further.
Oh, absolutely. And understand when I was offered this opportunity to teach wellness classes, I could have said, no, I don't want to. Okay. If I had said no, it would have been a much different story for me personally, as well as for the women that I've positively impacted, as you say,
Mm,
and empowered to move on. Now, some did, some didn't afterwards, but I still hear from people today.
of
That
course.
Facebook is a marvelous thing, and you it starts off. You may not remember me, and I look and I say, yeah, to myself, I do, and then I write it. I do remember you, and thank you for being part of my life at that point. So, it, again, you never know who's looking at you, who's watching, and because I was on task, I was on focus. Okay, I'm gonna teach, and I love to teach. It got me not only to teach others, but to teach myself. I began writing more. I began speaking more, and I began the process of growing from within. And that's why at that point I became dedicated, while still incarcerated, to empowering hearts, minds, and most especially spirit, to
Right.
our innate power from within. That's the authentic power from within. And we all have it if we
Yes.
choose to identify it and use it for our benefit, which will benefit others.
Now we do it. I think the idea of recognizing that it's there is sort of like kind of like, like building that self-awareness, right? Like this
Yes,
is what happened. But also too, part of recognizing the power that we have is also recognizing that there's things that might be holding us back, or limiting beliefs,
yes,
or maybe there's some unresolved trauma or past experiences that stay with us that we're unaware of. And so that self-awareness process, it's a very truthful experience, right? Truthful thing to go through. Um,
yes,
can we sort of talk about that other not so
yes,
fun stuff to when you go through that self-discovery process?
yes. And you mentioned my brand is now fix your reflection first
Yeah.
and live your best life ever. And I was working, as you mentioned, I was working with a marketing company, and it was kind of like, oh, fix. What do we got to fix? Well, fix yourself, fix your problems. I go, nah, I don't like the word problems. I don't like self. Fix yourself because, I believe we're whole, perfect, and complete, just where we are. And whatever we're doing, whatever we're saying. And it got to the point where, and I was looking in the mirror when I said that to myself. And I'm no stranger to mirror work. I do it myself, I do it with clients. But 4 years ago, I really started. That's when the brand changed from Help Me Rhonda Now, which is still my company. However, fix your reflection first and live your best life ever. And this is why, because at one point in life, well, first of all, every reflection I could catch of myself in a pane of glass or in a mirror, I would always say, oh, you're so beautiful. You're so wonderful. You're articulate. You're a catch. But did I really mean it?
Mm,
Did I really mean it? Well, 4 years ago, I got serious about that. And I realized all this stuff, this not so good stuff that had happened to me, it was affecting my self image. And unless I fixed that, I was not going to be the best version of myself
right.
for me as well as for anyone else. So that's when I really got serious about it. And I literally every morning say that. I love you, Rhonda. I like you, Rhonda. We can love a lot of people, including ourselves, but not like ourselves. Just the way you are. And that caught on. It was just what it should be when it should be.
Right.
So, and I believe it's important. People, especially as a psychotherapist that I've worked with,
Hmm.
and I will say in cases of relationships, well, what do you want from him? What do you want from her? What do you want in a relationship? Oh, I want someone who treats me not as bad. And that's exactly what they got. Bad,
Mm,
but not as bad.
not bad.
Okay. And because they were reflecting upon themselves that I'm not really with it. I'm not really all there. I might even be bad and not so good. That's what we attract. Everyone says opposites attract. They may attract, but they don't stay together for very long.
Gotcha.
Like attracts like, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, whether it's behavior from
Hmm.
those we love, our children, and otherwise, our partners, our colleagues. Like attracts like. So
Right.
if we fix our reflection first, which is what I got serious about, which is what I help people with, to like themselves, how they reflect to themselves. Like, love, do you esteem yourself? Do you appreciate yourself? Do you embrace yourself? Are you enough just the way you are? Whole, perfect, and complete?
Right.
And that's what it's there. So it's if you can bring it out, I teach how to bring it out, and I support those people
I
that
love it.
consider, yeah, that this may be true. It may be all right. And I don't work with everybody. I have
Okay.
a few clients. I have a group coaching program where I take 15. And my point is that I'm one person. So I only want to work with people that want to. They're not faint of heart. Okay. They want to look and make the changes. It's it's you know, I call it cognitive and emotional restructuring. It sounds painful, but it's really not once you get into it.
Right.
It's,
Right.
ooh, it sounds awful, but no, it's not. So from there, that's where the brand grew, and
Okay.
that's how I grew. So if anyone would like to fix their reflection first and live the best version of themselves, I'm your gal. If you're timid about it, because I was very timid in sharing
Yes.
just what I shared with you and
Hmm.
anything else, um, I became untimid. And the more I was untimid, it's like anything else. If you practice, it becomes easier. So looking in the mirror and saying, I love you became easier. And it becomes easier for those I work with. And it's an evolving process. I'm not
Mm,
immune to anything that
yeah.
happens with
Mhm.
others as well, that not so good stuff. But I know how to pull myself out. And that's
I love it.
important because
Yeah.
I know my
Yes.
power from within to do that.
So I'll tell you what, when I think about um, sort of life and the challenges and the obstacles and all these things, I sort of frame it in of sort of the hills and valleys, right? So on
Yeah.
the hills, things are great. You're happy, you're free, you're celebrating, you got some satisfaction, peace, joy, all the wonderful things. But as we know, life is a continuum, and sometimes there's valleys, and sometimes you'll sort
Yeah.
of dip down. And when you get in that valley, that's where the pain and the discomfort and the hurts and all that stuff lives down in that valley. Now, when we get in that valley, we'd have a choice. We can stay there and wallow in the misery, or figure out a way to start that journey back up the hill again. And so,
Yeah.
so for me, I'm very clear on the things that that inspire me, that motivate me, that I love doing. I love being around my kids and my family. I truly love podcasting.
Yeah.
And because I get to engage in these types of conversations, I find them uplifting. And even when I'm going through my stuff, I'm like, you know what, so and so, and all of a sudden I start to call myself back out. And so I make it my goal as much as I possibly can, not to never go down the valley, but to get out of the valley as quickly as I can. And
Yes.
and the more that you do it, so again, and that ties into knowing yourself. So, for example, yeah, and I joke with a friend of mine the other day, is that when I'm going through challenging times, I podcast more than ever before. Like it's like
Yes.
I enjoy it, and so I lean into that more, and I produce more because of that, and that's what
Yeah.
helps get me to. I mean, I'm at like 550 episodes. And I know why I got there
Yeah.
because I spent a lot of time in the valley. Right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so it's about getting out of it. And so that's sort of how I frame it. And so when you talk about knowing yourself, that's from, and again, I'm speaking for myself personally. That's how and it could be very different from you, from Tommy and Sally. It's all very different for everyone. But the key is understanding who the heck you are, and what you need to get yourself through this challenge that you're in the midst of.
Right. And you make a great point, oddly. When we are um, in those not so good times, is anywhere from almost dark to real dark.
Right.
It's important that we realize we must be just what we're talking about here, audacious, bold and courageous.
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
bold and courageous because life begins when we get out of our comfort zone?
That's right.
And you could say, oh, I'm not feeling it today. Forget about this. I'm taking a week, 2 weeks, no podcast. I don't talk to anybody. I want to concern myself with myself. We heal when we help others heal. And that's what we're doing here, whether they realize it or not. I realize it. Healing for me is being of service to others, and it
Mm,
helps me to heal from
yeah.
whatever consciously I'm going through or subconsciously,
Yeah.
unconsciously. Because that
Yeah.
unconscious mind, subconscious mind is 95% of what's going on with us. Research
Yeah.
bears
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So,
We best learn by teaching.
yes, yes, we best learn by teaching. And it's an understanding that not everyone wants to be taught, and
Yeah.
that's okay
That's right. That's
because
right.
they're not there. Not everyone wants to be taught. I learn as much from my audiences and my students as those who interview me as I give to them. And that's where I'm at. This is a reciprocal relationship. When you're involved, whether you're involved with a counselor or a group or your family or colleagues, okay, give what you would like to receive. If you're sitting back like this, good luck. Good luck. The Harry Potter wand will have to come out. Okay.
That's true, but you are correct, and I think there's as you're talking, one of the words that came to mind is acceptance, right? Being very
Yes.
accepting of where we're at, but not only where we're at, but where others are at too. And so,
Yes.
because I can't want it more than you for yourself, right?
Right.
I can't be the one that goes, you need this, and then you're the one that's the beneficiary. If you don't see it, then I can't see it for you. I will
Right.
support you. I will help you. I will guide you. But taking that first step, being audacious enough to take that first step, that's on you. It really
Tell
is,
you.
right? And so I love that. You don't talk about bouncing back. You talk about bouncing forward. I love
Yes.
the phraseology around that. Could you sort of explain a bit about that?
Yes. Um, Bouncing forward. And I have had lots of practice in that. And I know it's all in divine right timing. And I want to
Sure.
make this point because many audiences will they will be unhappy with me when I make this statement that we call it all forward. Whatever you think, you're calling it forward for reasons and seasons. And you're calling it forward because there's something you have to learn, whether you understand it or not, whether you agree or not. And the great part is, in order to bounce forward, you get to decide, you get to choose
Yep.
what is your next step? What do you want to do? And maybe it's time to just be instead of do. Just be. I'm a big beer because once I be, then I know what my next steps are. And again,
Right.
it's in divine right timing. Listen, I am as much of an immediate gratification person as the next person. I
Sure.
love immediate gratification, but oftentimes things that are long lasting takes you longer to get there. I said I use the analogy of,
Yeah.
have you ever been waiting for water to boil on the stove? Oh, I really want to boil these eggs. The longer you watch it and wait, look at it. Why aren't you boiling? The longer it's going to take. And
That's right.
that's another the that's why I begin with fixing your reflection first. Well, what do you want? What do you want? Because we're going to begin with you. But what do you want? Well, I don't know what I want, is an answer from many people. Well, let's decide what you don't want.
That's right.
And
That's
that's
right.
where we begin. And
That's right.
and so my point is that we have it all. I don't believe in the law of attraction. I believe in the law of assumption.
Okay.
Assuming.
Explain.
I
I'd love to
mean,
hear that.
many great books, including the Bible, assume that you have it before you have it. I believe in receiving. Okay, as Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about, receive. What would you like to receive? Okay, intentions are good, but what would you like to receive today? Don't be timid. Don't be shy. Well, I don't know how I would get it. Forget the how. The how is irrelevant. The how is
Yeah.
going to show up if
Yeah.
you're listening. If you're listening and you trust daily guide, your intuition as you go about your daily affairs. Trust, trust, and listen. And that's when the boldness comes in. That's when the
Yes.
daring comes in, because you said it before. We cannot want for someone what they do
No,
not want
no,
for
no.
themselves. It's not our right nor our obligation. And
Yep.
that's many people. I really want this, but I don't think I could ever have it. There's the God breath, the aha breath. I refer to it as
Yes.
God because I was raised Judeo-Christian. Whatever you call it, the universe, source, spirit, the
Yep.
divine, it's there. It's there.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
within us.
Yes.
It's the magnificence within us. Start using it.
I love how you talked about the how not being important, because I think that for a lot of people is what stops them from moving forward, because they don't
Yes.
know the how. Like
Yes.
it's like, I got to see the whole thing in front of me before I decide whether to move forward. Well, why not just take that step and see what happens? Right?
Right.
Like the part, because we're never going to know the how things happen. We're not going to know the end of the book until we get there. Like we're
Right.
just not. So we're going to have to read it. We're going to have to go through it chapter
Right.
by chapter by chapter. And part of that process of reading that chapter, or I'll say, reading a chapter or going through life, I'll equate them to be the same, right? Part of that process is accepting that there's something that's going to happen that I didn't foresee, that I've got to respond to. I've got to
Yes.
accept. You've had multiple life challenges. You talk about divorces and illnesses, incarcerations, and you didn't see any of them coming. I joke sometimes. I'll say, like, at no point ever in the history of mankind have you got a knock at the door to say, "Hey, at 3 o'clock today, you're gonna have this really terrible thing happen to you. So just give you a heads up so you're ready when it comes."
Right.
No, that's not realistic.
No, it's not.
Right?
It's
So
not.
it's let's not worry. So not that the how isn't important.
Yeah.
I'm not at all suggesting that, but the how isn't necessary to move forward. That's where I want to.
Absolutely. It's necessary to know what you want, move forward, and follow the cues. What's happening in your life? I follow my thought, whether it's to uh, text my grandkids, 9 and nearly 12. I may not get a text back, but I feel good that
Hmm.
I texted. Oh, they're busy. They have lives now. And it's like, but I didn't say, oh, they're probably busy. They're not going to text me back. I didn't
Yep.
say that.
Right.
I did not say that at all.
Right.
And that's where we trip ourselves up. We're in our own way.
Yes.
Um, as a matter of fact, the Mayans say that when you fall, when you trip, you're getting in your own way. Okay. You're getting in your own way. I've got an ice pack on my knee right now from Saturday.
Okay. Because you're in your own
I
way.
got in my own way, jogging. I got in my own way in that darn street. Oh boy. But you see, I didn't say, but it came to mind. I'm getting in my own way. Okay. So what am I getting in my own way about? Maybe I'm not being enough. Maybe I'm worried about this or worried about that. And I'm on a work project right now in Colorado Springs. I'm moving to back home to Connecticut
Hmm.
before the end of the year. So maybe I had too much of that on my mind instead of being in the now, because really that's all we have. This moment here, you and I together, and whoever's listening and watching is determining the next moment,
Right.
is determining the rest of the week, the rest of the year. So it's important to be in the moment that we're in. Don't get
Yeah.
distracted. Have this conversation. And sometimes I see myself. I'm actually no stranger to shiny penny syndrome either. And I will say,
We're
catch
human.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I say, okay, stay on task, Rhonda. Stay on
That's it.
task.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, stay on
I,
task.
I have instances where, like, I'm mentally doing something and something else gets my attention. Like, oh, I want to check that out. No, no,
Right,
no. Finish this first.
right.
Tie the ribbon and the bow. Finish this before you get distracted. It's just I think it's just a natural human. It takes a lot of discipline, but it's a natural function
It
of
is.
being
It's a
human. Yeah.
natural function. So when people, and you will come to you because you will call it forward what you need to go and to evolve and to people say to me, what are you talking about? You call prison forward, you call breast cancer forward, those divorces. I go, yeah, I did. I called them forward, even if it was the subconscious mind. She's always operating when I'm on vacation,
Yeah.
when consciousness is on vacation. And um, it was one adventure prepared me for the next.
Yes.
I mean, prison was, no. And then to hear after I was released that my sentence was expunged. And people would say to me, "What, aren't you mad?" I go, "No, why? You spent all that time." I said, "Yeah, I spent all that time learning
Yeah.
about myself, but I could have chosen to be a victim."
Oh, so how much time was spent incarcerated, roughly,
Six
approximately?
years.
Okay.
6 years.
Well, you still have lots more.
I still have lots more. And then I moved into breast cancer, knowing 11 months before my release, oh my goodness, I have a lump on my right breast. And some
Right.
days I said, "Oh, it's going, it's going." But I said,
Yeah.
"Nah, I'll be fine." I just kept saying that. And I was. And when I was released, I went to my own doctors and diagnosed with breast cancer in October, no less, in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, with nearly a stage 3
Mm,
carcinoma.
mm.
And after that biopsy, you have at least dozen questions. How did it work out? Well, not the best news, but not the worst news either. And when my daughter said to me, "When are we going to get a break?" I said, "Amanda, I will be dancing at your wedding and see my grandchildren." And I was. I don't even know where that came from. That was a God thing.
Sure. Sure.
But it happened. It happened.
Yes.
It's still happening. It's, in other words, the evolution process. And the interesting part about that is I'm a big believer in asking is you will receive if you ask. Knock, the door will be open. And this is what, interestingly, um, well, I had no idea I was going to be supporting as a facilitator breast cancer. I don't call them survivors. I call them thrivers. I'm a thriver.
Yes.
I thrive rather than anything less because that's what our authentic power does. So I was laying on a gurney in a surgical center in Monterey, California. It was a beautiful day. I don't like hospitals or anything, so that was a blessing that I get to go to the surgical center. I'm looking out the window and I'm talking to God, and I know everything's going to be all right, God, but could you just, you know, give me a little shot in the arm, I call it.
Sure.
Give me that sign. Well, nurse, who I later found out is my OR nurse, she comes over and she says, "Can I get you something, Rhonda?" And I go, "No, I was just having a little talk with God." And went out about, she goes, "Okay, that's great." And then she looks at me and she says, "Oh my, your hair is growing back, the peach fuzz from the chemo." And she pulls back her skull cap and she says, "Maybe it'll grow back like mine did." Whoa,
Mm.
there's my God bumps. Still till this day, 19 years, cancer free, thank God. But she was telling me that I would be serving others like she's
Wow.
serving others. So ask. Don't be afraid to ask. I don't care who you ask. Ask somebody and
Yeah.
understand that you're not alone in any of this
No.
at all. And
No.
so when people ask me that question, "You called it forward. What are you, nuts?" And I go, "No," or "Yes, maybe, but I do believe I called it forward because I have that power within me. I need
Yes.
something to put me on purpose, whatever my purpose happens to be at that point." And then after that, 2 divorces nearly simultaneously. Um, and I'm thankful for that because we're in each other's lives for reasons and seasons and sometimes lifetimes. And I needed to call forward one last thing, 3 is a charm, to let me understand that I'm whole, perfect, and complete just the way I am,
Hmm.
regardless of the not so good stuff that's happened. When I developed that perspective, everyone says to me, "Geez, you've been in Colorado Springs." Came from California, Colorado Springs for 4 years. Have you met anyone? And about 2 years ago, I started to say, "Yes, I have." She's articulate. She's attractive, uh,
Hmm.
extremely on purpose, helps others, likes to clean, likes to cook, likes to garden, and is athletic. And they look at me, and some people get it right away. And I go, "Yeah, her name is Rhonda Farrah." Have a relationship with yourself
I love
in
it.
the highest and the best ways possible.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you said that, because one of the things I was going to ask you about is kind of the role of self love and self care in this evolutionary process that we go through, right? How important that is, and
Yes,
you signal to that. I think it's key in all this, isn't it?
key. It's essential that you change, that you believe in you. Don't depend on anyone else. Don't depend on your spouse. Don't depend on your children. Don't depend on the government. Don't depend on anyone but yourself. Look within. People today they're like dominated by the news. I don't watch the news. I don't read a newspaper. I just pray. Pray for everyone, highest and best. God, you know what you're doing. And, Mother God is there too. So whatever,
Yes.
it's because that's falling into victim mode, saying you do not
Mm,
have the power within. You have the power, maybe to not cause world peace right away, but you have
yep.
the power to be peaceful within
Yes.
yourself.
Hmm.
You
That's right.
have that power regardless of situation, circumstance, or event.
That's right. That's right.
Prison, breast cancer, divorces, financial collapse. There wasn't one day I didn't cry or laugh. Laughter and tears are signs of growth. If you're not
Mm.
doing one or both, you're not growing, let alone where you're planted.
Laughter or tears? I think I've the tears, that part sounds familiar. Laughter, I've not ever heard that one. That's a brand new one for me.
Laughter. Um, Laughter. Well, I was away from my family for 6 years, six birthdays, six holidays, my own
Yeah.
and everyone else's. I had a family, and it was the many of the antics that one would have in a family without being in prison. Just the silly, the stupid, and I
Hmm.
laughed.
Hmm.
I laughed at that, and we ended all laughing together. Breast cancer, the same thing. You know, I was very blessed not only to be able to teach classes and that I thrived from this experience. I don't say battle with cancer; it's my experience, my incidence of breast cancer. But I was running. That's
Gotcha.
unheard of during chemotherapy. And I would fall, and not because of the chemo and with my dog, who was very patient with me, but because I had tripped. I'm a tripper, which means I'm getting in my own
In your own
way
way.
again. And uh, people would say, "Why are you doing this? You don't have to do this. You're in chemo." I go, "Yeah, I know. But if I can jog or I can have a fast walk, I know my window of opportunity is whether it's being outside and jogging, walking, or vacuuming. Um, I know what my window of opportunity is, and I'm going to take it." And so till this day, I listen to I follow the thought, follow the thought, follow the thought, and I detach from the outcome, which is what many of us do not do.
Right.
Detach. Don't worry about the how and detach from the outcome. That's very empowering in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very much so. Very
And
much so.
and I'm at, what are you in? What do you mean you're an alchemist? I'm an alchemist, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, and I'm a writer. But we don't understand, what is that alchemy? Well, this is basically what I do. I take the really good stuff, the joys in life, as well as the shit, and I have it work for me. And I'm I'm grateful that I can help others do the same if they choose to
Gotcha.
do that.
It's exciting. That exciting, because you're helping people tap into their potential. At least recognize
Yeah,
it. Ultimately, you've got, as an individual, you've got to take that step. Again, you have to be
right.
audacious enough to take that step. Even when you don't know what the how looks like, you still have to take that step. But when you're helping people point in that direction, I think that's so empowering. And we spoke earlier about the ripple effects, right? This is kind of an
Yeah,
example of that and how it ripples out. So again, I might think I'm only in my own shell, my own world, but you know what? There's people around me. We all have a sphere of influence, and so
yes.
if we're impacting that, we want to change the world, you do it one person at a time. And so I think that's what you're hitting on, that bang on. Um, I wonder if we could sort of leave, if you could leave, listeners with sort of, one thought, one mantra, an idea about thriving audaciously.
Yes.
What would that be?
A couple of things, if I may.
Yes.
First of all, our conversation, who's ever listening and watching, is something is being triggered within them. And understand you're here because you're meant to be. And I'm here. And you, Audley, are here because you're meant to be. So the point is, we are never alone. Ever, 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 ever alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If something is being triggered within you, reach out, whether it's to me or someone else. Reach out and have a conversation about that. So you are never alone. And remember that the tunnel we may all be traveling down at any given time. That light at the end is not a train. That light is the guidance, it's the truth, it's the way, it's the blueprint, the map to fix your reflection and live the best version of yourself if you choose to. I'm living proof of that.
Love it. I love
And
it.
I have one other, whether it's on my podcast or as a guest on podcasts, I leave listeners and viewers with an invitation.
Okay.
The invitation is this: live life as if it were ice cream and enjoy it before it melts.
Powerful. I love it. I do. I think that impresses on the importance of being present and enjoying the moment, not
Yes.
where the ice cream is going to go to, or not what's going to happen. With the cone. I mean, I will
Yeah.
admit though, those ice creams that have the chocolate at the bottom of it, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
how can I get to that chocolate?
How
at the
can I
bottom?
get there? Right.
Right? So I kind of moved it through really quickly, but no, it does not take away from your point at all. That I'm trying to get to the chocolate because life is meant to be enjoyed, and that's really
Yes.
what I think is so key, so important.
Yes.
Rhonda, I've talked about enjoyed. You talk about enjoyed. I've enjoyed my time with you here. I really truly have. I think
Thank
certainly your journey is very, very inspirational. The fact that you've just continued to move forward in recognition and identifying that, yes, these things have happened to you. And yes, these things you had, the experiences you had to go through, they haven't stopped you from living your life and enjoying the ice cream. And you've definitely done that. For
That's right.
listeners that wanted to connect with you directly, learn more about your work, or you said you have a podcast, where can we send them?
First of all, I welcome questions. I welcome comments. I like to hear from listeners and viewers. You can contact me directly at my email, Rhonda at helpmerhondanow.com. Rhonda, RHONDA. Rhonda at helpmerhondanow. You must put the now.com. My website is helpmerhondanow.com. I'm on all social media. My podcast is, of course, Fix Your Reflection First and Live Your Best Life Ever. We are doing a reset until the beginning of the year with our shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a group coaching program. The next cohort is beginning on January 12th. And I will send a link, which you're welcome to put in the program, the episode description
Yep.
and notes.
Mm-hmm.
And if people want to peruse that, that's great.
And we will certainly encourage that they do that. And yes, we'll apply. We'll include all that good stuff in the show notes below. Like I said, Rhonda, this has been great. So thank you. So appreciative of the time and the lessons and the insights. It inspires me. It truly does. I want to thank you for that. And I also, again, want to thank you for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
It's been my pleasure, Audley. Thank you for having me as your guest, and thank you for this wonderful conversation.
Hey, welcome back. Great to have those insights from Rhonda. She's a fabulous guest, and I really appreciate you for being here, Rhonda. She didn't just go through adversity. If you think about her story, she chose to use it. 6 years incarcerated, breast cancer, multiple life resets. Instead of asking, why me? She asked, what can I do with this? That's a different level of ownership altogether. And what really stood out to me is this idea of growing where you're planted, not waiting for perfect conditions, not waiting until everything feels better, but deciding right here, right now, that this moment still has value. That's not an easy thing to do, but that's where the shift actually happens. And when you really think about it, that's where audacity has the opportunity to show up. So let's take it a step further, because rock bottom isn't the end, it's a reset. It's time for an Audacious Insight, where we take a quick look at something happening in the real world that reflects the power of bold thinking and intentional action. Now, after being removed as CEO of Uber in 2017, Travis Kalanick faced public scrutiny, criticism, and what many thought was the end of his leadership story. But instead of disappearing, he rebuilt, launching a new venture and stepping back into entrepreneurship with a different perspective. Like Rhonda's journey, it wasn't about avoiding the fall, it was about what came after it. Sometimes a setback isn't there to stop you, it's there to help reshape you. Hey, listen, if you want to connect with Rhonda directly, learn more about her work, or check out the coaching programs that she offers, you can visit helpmerhondanow.com or reach out to her directly. Of course, we got you covered because all of her contact details are in the show notes below as always. And listen, if this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to share it with someone who might need to hear it. Follow the podcast. And of course, we always appreciate when you leave a review, because that's how we keep these conversations going, because you never know who's gonna need to hear what's being shared. And if this conversation reminded you of anything, I hope it reminded you that even in the middle of your toughest moments, there's still something there for you to grow into. You might be closer than you actually think. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, keep living life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness, be audacious.